Alrighty, everybody, welcome back. We are playing Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 2, Watanagashi. We are gonna have a little chat for a minute. Um, let's see here. Let me think what I want to cover first. I have a whole bunch of thoughts about things that I want to make sure I have well established as we continue this chapter. So, God, what do I start with first? So, Shion and Mion. I want to talk about this first because I've had an epiphany about this that I think I've just figured this out like 5 minutes ago as I was about to start recording this because I was like thinking about it again because I knew I was going to talk about it. But now I have figured everything out. I've got it all. It's clear to me now. So Shion and Mion, right? What do we have going on with them? So the first half of this chapter of this game was the author trolling us with Shion and Mion, right? Like we established that they look the same, and we can't tell from Keiichi's point of view, from our point of view, whether it's Shion or whether it's Mion, right? Because we have had explicit instances where both of them have pretended to be the other one, right? So, in my mind, ever since the Shion Mion reveal that they're two different people, and that whole ploy has been revealed to us, in my mind, it's obvious that we are going to get trolled by the author doing this, right? In some way that has to come up again. The idea of Mion pretending to be Shion or Shion pretending to be Mion, right? And ever since, like, it's been even more clear to me ever since we've been having reasons to, like, suspect Mion and think she's being weird, or Shion's been acting weird, it's clear that at some point that has to come back up. Like, if I'm more sure of anything in my life, if I'm sure of anything in my life, it's that is going to happen. It's death, taxes, and the Shion Mion thing is going to come into play again. So the question is, like, when and how is that going to happen? Right? I have obviously been incredibly suspicious. Every single time Shion or Mion ever show up, my first priority when I see them is, okay, is this actually Shion/Mion who they're telling us they are? And ever since, everything pre the Shion Mion reveal, I think we can put that out of our minds. That doesn't really matter. After the Shion Mion reveal, like, what have we had? We've had the festival. We've had setting up the festival. Shion and Mion were both there, right? I don't think there would be any reason for them to be, like, in on it together and pretending to be the other one together. That would be, like, crazy. I gotta turn on my fan. We had the festival itself, which I thought about this a lot. The idea that it could have actually been Mion that went into the shed thing with Keiichi. But I just don't think that's true. I just don't think that makes sense. I remember there were some lines that meant that didn't make sense, right? I remember being suspicious of that during it happening. And obviously, we also knew that Shion and Mion were at the festival at the same time too. They showed up. They were on screen at the same time, right? So again, I feel like it would have to be some kind of weird, like, double dynamic between both of them doing it together to troll Keiichi and to troll me, which would be weird. So I don't think that was Shion pretending to be Mion or Mion pretending to be Shion at the festival either. What have we had since then, right? We've had the phone calls with Shion, which I think have been with Shion. Because she brought up specific knowledge about going into the shed with Keiichi that Mion wouldn't have had, assuming, again, that was Shion that went into the shed with Keiichi, and I believe it was. I think that makes perfect sense. We have had the little library date with Shion, which I very much think was also Shion, because, like, she was in Okinomiya. Like, I guess I guess it's possible that was Mion. I just don't know. Again, I don't know what possible advantage, Mion would have gotten out of pretending to be Shion there, Again, that one in my mind, it doesn't make sense to think, and when this does happen again, when it comes up again, that it's Shion and Mion have switched places, or that we think it's Shion and it's actually Mion, or we think it's Mion and it's actually Shion, it has to, like, be important. It has to be a plot point that's going to be relevant, because the way it's been set up so far is Keiichi has very different views of both of them. He has information with both of them that he's sharing specifically with only one of them, So it is absolutely going to come up again. It's going to be, like, important, right? So the library date, I guess I don't have any solid reason to say that had to be Shion and not Mion, but I also don't think it matters, right? The second phone call, right? I think that was Shion for sure. Her reaction to learning about the mayor's death, I just don't think there's any way that would be Mion, right? So I think that was Shion too, like for sure. That second phone call had to be Shion as well. And this is where I'm getting to like the important stuff, right? In Onikashi, we had the crazy shit with people going insane, right? And I wrote a ridiculously long reply to a comment in the last video, which I kind of just used as like my uh, vehicle to explain all of my thoughts on the entire story so far. So go read that if you want to. My interpretation of Onikashi is, yes, very clear. It's very clear to me that Keiichi was going insane in Onikashi. Like, at the very least, through Keiichi's eyes, I think Keiichi completely lost his mind in Onikashi. And I think he lost his mind in Onikashi to the point where there has to be some kind of crazy external force making him go insane, right? Whether or not that actually is Oyashiro-sama, or if Oyashiro-sama is just folklore that has been created to, like, explain this weird phenomena that exists in the village. And Oyashiro-sama is kind of like the name they made for it. And, like, they created this lore around it, whether or not any of that's true or not, which I kind of don't think it is. It is very difficult for me to believe that there is going to be any kind of explanation for Keiichi going completely insane in Onikashi. That isn't some kind of external force making him go insane, right? Because the ways you can interpret Onikashi are either Keiichi didn't go insane and all of that crazy shit actually did happen, which in that case you have to think that Mion and Rena went insane instead, or you have to think they're crazy psychopaths, which is even crazier to me. You have to think either Mion and Rena went completely crazy, and Keiichi was just the innocent guy who, everything we saw through his eyes was, like, real, and it was just, like, what happened, right? Which, I don't really believe that, because I think, like, thematically, with what I think the story is doing, in terms of, like, what the story is, like, exploring, in, like, terms of Keiichi's emotions, like, the whole, like, not fitting in, his whole crazy thing about there being two versions of every person, like, I think that comes from, like, a place of insecurity in him about, like, himself and the way that he is, like, portraying himself having moved into Hinamizawa in this new town, right? The way that so many elements of Onikashi, played into him thinking like that, and played into his mindset, like, the needle in the mochi, and when he talked to Rena about it the day after, and she said something like, "Oh, did you enjoy the mochi last night?" or whatever, and then everything went fucking completely insane, and Keiichi had a 5-minute long panic attack in his mind, thinking about how Rena was gonna mash him into paste, right? That kind of thing, I think, very much plays into Keiichi's, like, mindset about himself and, like, relationships with other people, which is, like, I think the main theme being explored in the story. And because it matches up so well with that, that's why I think that kind of thing, that kind of crazy paranoia he was having in those moments, it would be too much of a coincidence. Maybe not a coincidence. It would be very hard for me to accept that it was truly just, like, an unreliable narrator, or it was just Keiichi, like, it was just a representation of Keiichi's, like, crazy anxiety about things, you know? I think it very much felt like it was, like, originated from Keiichi's mind, these crazy hallucinations he was having. And that is what we were seeing in Onikashi, right? Like, because again, the two different ways you can interpret it here is, like, either we are seeing things the way Keiichi is seeing them, in terms of, like, he is, like, hallucinating and seeing this crazy shit happen through his own eyes, or we are seeing things, like, through the lens of Keiichi's eyes, in terms of, like, how he views things, like, you know what I mean? It's like when there's crazy Monogatari imagery, right? And we see something that's very much related to, like, a subject that's going on. But we know that that imagery, like, isn't real, right? Like, when there's crazy, like, shaft imagery and stuff. It's just, of course, it's related to, like, what's happening in the story, because that's just, like, what it is, right? So you can imagine that the crazy imagery and crazy things that Keiichi sees are just through the lens of his, like, narration, except it's not really his narration, right? Like, we're in his head as these events are happening. I hope you understand the distinction there. I am much more the former, where I think we saw, through Keiichi's eyes, a good faith, like, interpretation of what he was seeing in those moments. So, I think through external means, which I very much heavily go towards the idea of it being supernatural, I just think that would make more sense to me than I just have no idea how else to explain it, other than some kind of supernatural force making it happen. It fits with the lore of the village. It doesn't have to be literally that the lore about Uyashiro-sama is true, but it would be an explanation for why this lore about Uyashiro-sama exists, right? It fits with so much stuff to me that just some kind of supernatural explanation for people going crazy makes sense, right? It fits with Satoshi, if the same thing happened to Satoshi, and that's why I think he killed his aunt. That's why I think he is the one who did that and escaped, right? I don't believe it was a random drug addict. If he also went insane, had something very similar happen, killed his aunt, right? Rena, at her previous school, she went crazy, grabbed a bat, beat up her friends, right? At her previous school. That sounds so exactly the same as what happened with Keiichi. He literally did the exact same thing, you know? Um, so I think it is some kind of supernatural phenomena making people go insane. And going along with that, I guess Shion, during that phone call, during the second phone call that we had, which again, I believe it was Shion, she started acting completely insane, right? She started the same way that in Onikashi, the people who seemed to be going insane, which was Keiichi and Rena in Onikashi, they would repeat things over and over, saying, I'm sorry, over and over and over again. They would just act very, like, crazy in the same way that she was, when she just kept repeating over and over again, oh, it's my fault, it's my fault, it's my fault, you know, that crazy shit, right? It seems to me that Shion is the one being affected by whatever this crazy shit is now in this story. Okay. Another reason I have to believe this, right? Shion heard that weird shit when we were in the warehouse place that Keiichi couldn't hear, right? Um, which to me very much goes along with the interpretation of hallucinations, of this making you hallucinate and see crazy shit going on, you know? If we're going to say that, like, for the needle, for example, because I went back and reread that scene where Keiichi confronts Mion about the needle, he never actually said that it was a needle out loud. All he said was, oh, you could have killed me, it wasn't a prank, blah, 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 you know? So she never had the opportunity to directly say, oh, it wasn't a needle, right? So Keiichi could have been literally hallucinating the needle. And if there wasn't a needle, I think that's the only explanation that makes sense to me, that he was hallucinating it, right? To me, there's no sense of crazy, like, anxiety or stress or unreliable narration where it makes sense that he just, like, saw a needle and there wasn't one, if it isn't literally him hallucinating, right? So the idea of Shion and Takano, which I think is also important, hearing the weird sound, and Shion also saw something weird in one of the cages when they were in the warehouse too, remember that? That to me brings us back to the same idea of people hallucinating and seeing crazy shit, right? Just this time we're seeing it from the other way around. We're seeing it from Keiichi's point of view, and this time he isn't the one hallucinating going crazy. So when we see Shion saying all that shit about how, oh, I, you know, blah, 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 I heard this crazy sound and, you know, oh, all this crazy shit was happening, Keiichi's just like, I have no idea what you're talking about, blah, 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 you know? Just like from Keiichi's point of view in Onikashi, when he thought his friends were acting like crazy lunatics and doing insane shit to him, and they would just act normal, right? In his mind, he thought they were being crazy, duplicitous psychos who wanted to murder him, you know? So I think Shion is being affected by the same thing that Keiichi was being affected by in Onikashi, whatever it is. It's making her hallucinate and making her go crazy. For what reason and what that means, I have no idea. And for that reason, I guess I have to be much more open-minded to the idea that the Mion in the last chapter was actually Shion, right? Because we had Mion have the crazy fit about Sadako being cursed, right? Of course, it's possible that Mion is also being affected by this crazy shit that makes you go insane, and that was the explanation for that. It's possible that Keiichi is being affected by it again, and that Mion didn't actually act like a crazy lunatic in that scene, and it was us seeing it through Keiichi's eyes, right? But I feel like just because of that, just because I now think that Shion is being affected by the shit that makes you go insane, don't have a name for it yet, I have to be much more open-minded to the idea that it actually was Shion in the last episode rather than Mion. The reasons, again, why I don't think it is, though, why it's hard for me to accept that, is Shion just finished telling Keiichi that we shouldn't be out alone at night, and that we shouldn't go anywhere alone. Shion lives in Okinomiya, so what, are you telling me that Shion came all the way down to Hinamizawa alone to pretend to be Mion? To go, like, so that alone just kind of makes me feel like it doesn't make sense. But there could definitely be an explanation for it. These moments in the last episode are things that happened that I feel like are important enough that I could imagine it being the big twist or whatever that I know the story is going to do with the Mion Shion thing again. And I could imagine explanations for how it could be Shion in the last episode pretending to be Mion. I can imagine that, like, being a thing that happened, you know? So I guess that's it. I guess that only took me 16 minutes to say all of that, so good. I'm glad we have all that figured out now. At the same time, I feel like it's not like I'm going to lower my guard around Shion and Mion at all. I am going to still, every single time we ever see them, I'm going to be thinking, like, I don't believe you. So, that's all. I am now much more suspicious of Shion than I ever was of Mion, I guess. Oh, and also, the other important scene to note here is the scene where Keiichi saw Mion with, like, the weird, crazy, empty eyes again, you know? His reaction to that was so understated compared to his reactions when he would see them like that in Onikashi, that this one I actually could believe isn't him hallucinating. And it actually is just a representation of, like, how he's viewing Mion in that moment, you know? Because he obviously still has this crazy anxiety issue where he thinks everyone's questioning him about everything he's ever done wrong in his life. So, in that moment, I feel like that isn't evidence that Mion is actually going crazy or whatever. I think in Onikashi, I don't think Mion was ever going crazy at all. I think that was all Keiichi. I think it was Keiichi and Rena going crazy in Onikashi, and Mion was innocent. I don't think there was any Mion going insane at all. I think it was all purely through Keiichi's eyes hallucinating, seeing her like a lunatic. Yeah. I think we got all that figured out. So to summarize, Shion's going crazy. She's the one being affected by this insane shit. Maybe Keiichi, maybe Mion, but I doubt it. I think it's just Shion. Could have been Shion in the last chapter pretending to be Mion. There's a lot of reasons to think it wasn't, though. And I think there will be a moment later in the story where there is a Shion-Mion switch, where it's Shion pretending to be Mion or Mion pretending to be Shion, and the story's not going to tell us, and it's going to be creepy. So, there we go. Glad we got all that figured out. I feel the need to save, even though all I did was talk for 20 minutes. Alright, let's continue. If anyone sits through all that, you're awesome. I saw a ceiling I was familiar with. Though I was groggy from sleep, I did notice that I was in my futon, like I was every morning. I looked at my clock, and despite having turned in so late last night, I had awoken at precisely the same moment I always did. Same. I wake up at 6:44, which is 1 minute before my alarm goes off, every single morning, no matter what I do. I'm so low on sleep. I guess you really can get up at the same time every day. The secrets of the human body never cease to amaze me. If I went back to sleep like this, I would definitely not be waking up again. I spurred myself on and slipped out of my futon. Mom asked me about last night at breakfast. God, we're... Yet again, me being unable to read. It's starting early this time. That's not a good sign. It really isn't. The problem is I just read the sentences so much faster in my mind than I can speak, so it's like I read the sentence 5 minutes ago and I still gotta say it out loud, so it's hard. Apparently, we too had gotten a call asking if we knew where Rika-chan and Sadako were, and Mom vaguely understood that something serious was happening. Not gonna be mad, are you? No. Crunch. I really bit into my toast. It really didn't have any taste. Oh god, it's this again. Just then, we heard the chime go ding. I looked up at the clock and saw that it was about 5 minutes past my regular meeting time with Rena. It was her at the door. We're really going to school? I guess. I would skip today. I love Rena so much. Can Rena just, like, keep Keiichi safe and we can just, like, be okay? Like, I just, like, please. Rena seemed pretty sleep-deprived as well. There was something missing from her usual spirit. I guess, right, it would be better than just sitting around at home all day and just, like, stewing in misery, like... She said, smiling, albeit stiffly. Rena was probably worrying her heart out about those two as well. Even so, she wanted to go to school.
今日お休みしたらきっとケイチ君は病んで寝込んじゃうと思う。私そんなの嫌だから。だから一緒に学校に行こう。
わかった。
Sounds
ちょっ
good.
と待っててくれ。すぐ支度するから。
I was just a little bit happy about Rena mustering that much consideration for me. We went to the place where we'd usually meet up with Mion, but she was nowhere to be found. Worrying. We were a little bit late today, so we thought she'd be waiting for us.
みーちゃん、さすがに今日は起きられないかもね。
Maybe, or Shion killed her last night.
あ、そうか。あいつにとっては昨日だけじゃないんだよな。一昨日の晩も村長さんを探して徹夜してるんだよな。
Like, in Shion's insanity, like, if we're going back to the idea that Shion is going crazy, it's just like Keiichi did in Onikachi, would, like, Shion's target of her insanity be Mion? It probably would be, right? Like, if the idea is that someone kills someone or beats someone up with a bat every time this happens, right? Like Sachi with his aunt, Rena with her classmates, Keiichi with Rena and Mion, would Shion's, like, target or victim in this case be Mion? Maybe, right? We waited for a bit. Time passed until it got to the point where it was okay for us to go on alone, and we exchanged
どう
glances.
する？
Gonna wait again?
もう少し待つか？
At that point, my brain, which had finally been woken up by the morning air, recalled the ominous words Ooishi-san had left with me last night. The leaders of the three families were disappearing one after the other, yeah. And next, it might be the Sonozaki's leader. And of course, the idea of Shion going crazy doesn't, like, I don't know how that would fit into this whole people disappearing thing at all, you know? I really have no idea. Could Mion have... No, that couldn't be.
行こう。今日は寝かせておいてあげようよ。
Rena gave me a pat on the
ミ
back.
オン、本当にいる？
My bad. She's still here, right? Yeah.
何か言ったかな。
Like, she's not dead?
いや、独り言。
Like, obviously, Shion wouldn't have killed, Kimiyoshi, right? Like, like, obviously not. So, it's not like Shion's the one killing everyone for fun. Like, I don't know. Who would do it, though? Why? I mean, why?
行こうぜ。
Getting back to Rika's conversation, right? Like, she called Mion the big sister cat. So I would assume that would mean Shion is the little sister cat, right? So I don't think Shion would be the dog in Rika's conversation either. I guess I'm really assuming that Rika knows what was going on, but... The two of us headed to school by ourselves. On the way, we saw a bunch of our classmates accompanied by their parents. It even looked like some of them were being taken to school by car. Oh yeah. Surprisingly, the principal was also standing watch at the school gate. I'd never seen that before. I guess no one can get past him, so... The principal was bowing to her classmates' guardians. The wooden sword leaning next to him was a little ominous. Good morning.
おはようございます。
先生から大切なお話があるから、すぐに教室に入るように。
About Sadako and Rika, is it just gonna be like fucking martial law? No one is allowed to walk anywhere alone? Like, Rena and I said nothing. The madness that only existed at night had crawled out into the sunlight. That's what it felt like. Into the warmth, perhaps?
皆さん、おはようございます。
Good morning. The hushed conversations that had been spreading for a while now all disappeared like an illusion the moment our teacher walked into the door. Silence dominated the classroom. The principal came in with our teacher as well. This was clearly not a normal morning.
まず、校長先生から大切なお話があります。校長先生、どうぞ。
The principal cleared his throat and approached the dais.
もう知っている生徒もおるだろう。
The classroom was dead silent. Everyone was staring at Rika-chan and Sadako's empty seats, yeah. The principal briefly and simply declared that Rika-chan and Sadako had gone missing. There wasn't a single person in the classroom who didn't already know. There seemed to be many, however, who couldn't accept it as the truth. Oh yeah, what's Okamura and, what's the other kid's name? I don't remember. I wonder what they're gonna think. It had been confirmed to them now by the principal's words. There were sobs throughout the classroom, and I heard a kid crying. They steadily spread throughout the whole room. The big-hearted principal wasn't able to keep his cool either.
はい、皆さん注目注目。今日から当分の間、登下校は保護者の方と一緒に行います。
God,
保
man.
護者の方の都合がつきにくい生徒は集団での登下校とします。プリントを作りましたので、よく読み、保護者の方にも必ず見せてください。いいですね。
The teacher's voice was a little abrasive. Not even she could conceal the strain she felt from this unprecedented abnormal situation. They should have just canceled school today. However, Rena told me that the school was also like a nursery for the students whose parents both worked, so some of them wouldn't want school to be canceled. Well, yeah, that's welcome to capitalism.
では授業を始めます。委員長はお休みですね。では日直号令起立。
That feeling of wanting to maintain an everyday atmosphere, even if only in school, precisely because our lives had been messed up, was something that I agreed with at this point. Ah, no happy fun club time, huh? We only have Rena and Keiichi. As for the teacher, who always had her lunch in the staff lounge, she ate in the classroom today. I had to laugh at her curry bento, which was just a rumor until now, but there's nobody to laugh with me. Rena brought her chair and lunch over to my seat. Today, it was only the two of us. The fact that we didn't need to drag any other desks over was sad.
眠いね。
ああ、で
Yeah.
ももうそんなに気にならなくなったよ。むしろ今寝れるくらいのずぶとい神経が羨ましい。
I just don't know how they're gonna cope with this at all, you know? Especially Keiichi. I mean, that scene was so sad, him thinking it's all his fault. Even though it's not his fault, right? It's whoever is making them disappear. It's their fault, not his, you know? But of course he would think like that, right? Like...
そうかもね。
I was sleepy this morning, but my drowsiness had dissipated after coming to school and constantly feeling the incredible tension. Rena's bento box didn't have its usual luster. That was to be expected. Rena was up for a long time last night too. She wouldn't have had time to make her usual lunch beforehand. I just put a word in there that didn't exist, since it's not like she would have gotten up early this
遠
morning.
慮なくつっつけよ。今日は素直に俺の弁当の方が立派なのを認める。
じゃあ遠慮なくいただくね。ああ、しそチーズのちくわ巻きなんて面白いな。
レナのだって今日のはレトルトだろうけどなかなかうまいぞ。
I realized the two of us were desperately trying to brighten the afternoon mood to its usual level as much as we could. I looked around the classroom, and it seemed like we were the only ones trying to do so, surrounded as we were by gloominess.
こうして二人だけでお弁当をつつき合ってると、なんだかそのなんだかだよね。
Sort of like something, huh? Our laughter grew quieter. I was the first one to mess
ご
up.
めん。その悪かった。
There's nothing to apologize for.
いいよ、仕方ないよ。
Our chopsticks both stopped moving. We couldn't keep it up anymore.
リカちゃんとサトコどこに行ったんだろうな。
Those words might have sounded too miserable. Everyone was thinking it, using roundabout ways to address the topic, but I came right out and said it. I heard Rena catch her breath.
昨日ね、ケイチ君がいなくなってい
Oh,
る間に、い
Okay.
ろいろと話を聞いてたから。
I hope we didn't find their
レナの知っ
bikes.
てる限りを話すね。
If we found their bikes and not them, that would be really...
ゆうべはすまなかった。
Well, I don't know. I guess I don't know what conclusion I would draw from that. I feel like that's not good news, though.
頼む。
At that time, since they had arrived for support, Rena was helping the Ladies' Society cook the miso soup we'd had. They reported all of the information the villagers had gathered, and Rena said she overheard it.
でも結局何もわからなかったんだろう。学校が終わってから家に帰って二人で自転車に乗ってどこかへ行ったらしいということ以外は全く。
Mion had told me yesterday. We had no clues.
うん。警察の人も家に帰ってからすぐに自転車で遊びに行ったんだろうって言って。
I guess. Maybe. I want Keiichi to tell Rena, but he won't. Like, because Keiichi knows. Like, Keiichi... I feel like I guess the implication to me is that Rika went out to do something involving... when she said she was going to do something about Keiichi's situation, right? So... I don't know if that information would mean anything to anyone else, but it doesn't mean anything to Keiichi, and he's not telling anyone, so...
家 に帰ってからすぐに自転車で遊びに行くところといったら町かもしれないでしょ。
Okay.
だから沖宮の町でいなくなったんじゃないかって結論になってるみたい。
And like Shion, right? Would Shion have any reason to kill either of them? No, right? I mean, I don't think so, right? Like what? Like, no, there's no. I can't think of any way that would work, you know.
警察は明るくなってから捜査範囲を沖宮にも広げるって言ってた。
In town. It makes sense why we couldn't find them, even though we searched all of Hinamizawa with him. Still, something didn't fit. I had no basis for thinking that, just a gut feeling. But yeah, them disappearing in Okinomiya just feels so different, you know? Like, it just feels like to me that Okinomiya should be, like, safe, you know? Like how Tomitake died right on the crossing between Okinomiya and Hinamizawa, right? Like, right before he was able to escape, right? It feels like to me that if he had managed to make it, he would have been fine, right? I revealed something to Rika-chan that was likely very important to her that day. Then, Rika-chan had told me to leave it to her. And then, what did she say? Oh, right. If she didn't work hard, then something bad might happen to the dog, too, I think. With all the talk of dogs and cats, I still didn't have the faintest idea what she really meant, but it might have been Rika-chan's way of saying this was a race against time. So I guess I'm waiting for something bad to happen to someone, and then I'll be like, oh, that person's the dog. But I just don't know, unless, I mean, I assume... I don't know. I really don't know. I just don't know. Damn it. I'd selfishly pushed my anxiety on Rika-chan and tried to run away. Yeah, crazy thing to think. When I thought about it, I shouldn't have run back then. I should have asked for more, about the dogs and cats. And the more I think back on it, I really screwed up. Anyway, I don't think Rika-chan was in a situation where she would just go off to play somewhere. Of course, I didn't have any evidence or conviction to base that on. It was just a hunch.
町なんかに行くわけないと思うんだ。
ケイチ君もそう思う？レナもそう思う？
Interesting that Rena says Watashi sometimes. She uses Watashi as like her first person pronoun. Sometimes she uses Rena as her first person pronoun. I don't know. Like, I guess it's like context dependent, just like any time it changes in Japanese, right? But I don't know. Because normally I just feel like that's like a normal thing with like anime characters. I guess this is an anime, but you know, Japanese story characters where it's like they have a first person pronoun that they like always use, you know? And a character like Rena, she almost always says her name. She almost always says Rena as her first person pronoun, which like makes her seem like childish and, you know, like the way she is. But she does use Watashi sometimes, so I don't know, it's interesting, I guess. I looked back at Rena, startled. I could hear the conviction in those words. Without replying to my gaze, she took a bento box and went to the hallway. She timed that in a way that broke off the conversation. Okay. Suddenly, I got the feeling that the next thing she had to say would be too hard to say aloud in the classroom. Oh? I hurriedly grabbed my bento box and followed her. Rena didn't go to the kitchenette, but rather to the water fountains out back, where students seldom went. Back here, the water flowed down onto her bento boxes. During that time, Rena didn't say a word. Then, after making sure there were no other students around, she finally opened her mouth to speak.
Rika-chan and Satoko-chanが町に遊びに行っていなくなったなんて。
Is wrong?
なんだか腑に落ちなくて。
Ooh.
私なりにいろいろ聞いたり調べたりしたの。
So how late were you out?
聞いた？
Did you sleep at all?
何を？
婦人会のおばさんたちにいろいろ。昨日のお味噌汁、お豆腐がいっぱい入ってたでしょ？富田豆腐店のおばあちゃんも来てたの。
Okay. Tomita Tofu Shop. Oh, I remember. It was one of the stores on the road leading to the hospital. Those huge lumps of tofu dancing in the bathtub like cistern always looked nice and refreshing.
おばあちゃんね、昨日学校の帰り道にさとこちゃんのお店に寄ってお豆腐を買っていったのを覚えてたの。
豆腐？学校の帰り道にだろ？それが何か手がかりになるのか？
いいから聞いて。
Okay.
リカちゃんの家に行った時のこと、覚えてるかな？
Rena stepped away from the sinks and spread her arms wide to recreate the space of Rika-chan's room.
ガス台にお鍋がかけてあって、その
Mm.
中にお味噌汁が入ってるの。
Okay, so it's like they had to leave in the middle of, like, before they even made food.
中にはお豆腐が多分一丁
Oh,
の
or
半分
did
く
they?
らい
Okay.
入ってたと思う。
Or they were eating it, I
残
guess.
りの半分は冷蔵庫の中にあったの。冷ややっこにするつもりだったんだね。
Mm-hmm.
お皿に開けてラップがかけてあった。
As Rena explained, she walked around as if she were really going through Rika-chan's room.
でもレナ、それが何だって言うんだ？
ケイチくん、お味噌汁のお豆腐って本当に最後の最後に入れるんだよ。 つ
Okay.
まりお料理してたリカちゃんか、もしくはさとこちゃんはお夕飯の時間の直前まであそこに立って料理をしていたことになるの。
Okay.
夕食の時間の直前まで？
Wasn't everyone saying that their bikes weren't around, so they must have gone somewhere to play by themselves?
三角コーナーのゴミを見たらすごく不吉祥だった。食事やお弁当はほとんどリカちゃんが作ってるんだけど、たまにね、さとこちゃんがすることもあるの。だからその晩はさとこちゃんがお料理したんだね。
それってつまりさとこに関しては遊びに行かず夕食の準備をしてたってこと？
Yeah, right. But, like, I mean, that just, like, both of them could have been home, though, right? They could have just left later than people were saying, right? But, like, obviously, if it was that late, it probably would have been already, like, almost dark outside. Like, they wouldn't leave to go to Okanomiya if it was already late, right? Like, they're not gonna go, like, oh, let's go hang out in Okanomiya in the middle of the night, you know?
それで私、炊飯釜も見てみたの。炊飯釜には2人分のご飯が炊けている。
Oh, so they were, yeah, Rika was supposed to be there, too.
ってことは
Mm-hmm.
2人分の夕飯は作ったけど2人とも夕飯は食べなかった、そういうことか？
Rena nodded.
それで次に冷蔵庫の中も見てみたの。そうしたら残り半分のお豆腐で作った冷ややっこがあったの。それだけじゃない。お夕飯用に作ったおかずも何皿かあって、それらにはみんなラップがされていた。
You usually plastic wrap things so that you can have leftovers for the next day. My mom does it all the time, too, using them at breakfast or lunch.
そう。ラップって食べ残しとかを取っておくためにするものだよね。冷
Mm-hmm.
蔵庫に入れたということは、少なくともその晩のうちには食べないつもりだったということ。
そういうことになるのか？
Sure, sure.
ケイチくん、もっとよく考えて。お夕飯を全く手つけずでラップしてあったんだよ。
Uh-huh.
どういうことだと思う？
じゃあ夕食を食べる必要がなくなったわけだ。外食とか出前とかで。
Well,
それも突然にね。
okay, sure.
前もって決まっていたらお料理なんかし
Mm-hmm, okay, sure,
そ
sure.
してお夕食は2人分用意されていた。
So it wasn't like they were interrupted making dinner and had to immediately leave for some reason. They made it and wrapped it all up and put it in the fridge.
つまりさとこちゃんは2人で食事ができると
Mm-hmm.
本当に直前まで
Yeah.
そう思って料理をしていたということなの。
じゃあ2人で遊びに行っていなくなったというのは間違いじゃないか？
そう。つまりいなくなっ
Hmm.
たのはお夕飯ができて夕食に至るまでの本当にわずかな時間。多分7時頃くらい。
Yeah, and that's, like, so... late.
そんな時間に
Yeah.
食事もせずに2人はどこへ行ったんだ？
当然そこに行き着くよね。ケイチくん、覚えてるかな？折りたたみ机が置いてあって、その上にお醤油や箸立てなんかが置いてあったの。
There might have been something like that. I didn't remember.
お醤油の小瓶ね、空っぽだったの。もう一滴も入ってなかった。これじゃあ冷ややっこは美味しくないよね。
Okay.
だから私、流しの下にある醤油の大瓶を探してみたの。
よくそんなところにあるって知ってるな。
Been over there before.
私もリカちゃんの家に行ってお料理したことあったから。
Rena cleared her throat, her face returning to a serious expression.
でね、流しの下を開けてみたら
Okay.
醤油の大瓶が瓶ごとなかったの。
So what, did they just go out to buy soy sauce?
醤油の大瓶がないとどういう意味になるんだ？
ここから先は全部レナの想像だからね。
Okay.
だから最後まで 口を挟まずに聞いていてね。
I'm ready. I'll be silent. Last night, Sadako was making dinner like normal. Ruka-chan usually watched TV until the food was ready, so she was probably lying down watching a variety show or something. Sadako put the tofu in the miso soup, and right when dinner was about to be ready, she noticed they were out of soy sauce. So Ruka-chan, who had nothing to do, brought the big bottle of soy sauce to a neighbor's house to borrow theirs. Okay, sure.
俺ご近所付き合いってよくわからないんだが。
Sure, it's a small town.
分けてもらえるものなのか?
It's a small town. Get used to it, city boy.
うん。ひなみ沢ではそんなに珍しいことじゃないよ。
Ruka-chan rode her bike out to get some soy sauce. No matter how long Sadako-chan waited, though, Ruka-chan didn't come back. Yeah. So then Sadako-chan called up the house where Ruka-chan was going. But then we would have... But, okay. Immediate issue with this theory I feel like I'm having here, though, is we called everyone. Didn't we call everyone in Hinamizawa and ask them if they had seen Rika or Sadako? Just like we did when Kimiyoshi went missing? So wouldn't we have called this house and we would know if they had said, yeah, Rika was here? Or at least they would have said, like, yeah, Sadako called me last night, right? Then the other person must have replied with something like this. Okay. Sadako called Rika a few names in private and wrapped up the dinner she had made for them. Okay, unless we're saying that this person who did it is, like, evil and killed them. Like, I don't know. Because, I mean... She put it in the fridge so she could use it for breakfast and lunch the next day. Then Sadako got on her bike too, and headed for the house where Rika-chan was.
でも、すでにこの時点でおかしいの。食事ってね、突然やってきた人に振る舞えるほど多めに作るものじゃないんだよ。
Sure, this is really kind of a very specific theory, but a veteran housewife would never normally make so much food that she could feed 2 extra people.
たまたま偶然作りすぎたことだって考えられるだろう。
それでも絶対に考えられない。
Rena flatly denied
だっ
me.
て、リカちゃんはさとこちゃん
Yeah,
が頑張って
yeah,
作った
exactly.
夕飯が
Like, that's what I was
できて
thinking.
ることを知ってるんだよ。
Like, why would Rika just eat food there? If, like, you would think she would, like, call Sadako and be like, stop making dinner. Like,
どんなにお夕飯を勧められたって、
yeah.
さとこちゃんのお夕飯を無駄にするようなことをするわけがない。
But this is your theory, Rena, so... This was all only circumstantial evidence and Rena's guesswork. But I guess Rena's theory is, I guess, those people were lying or something and killed Rika? Like, I don't know, I guess I'll let her finish her theory. Even so, it was all extremely convincing. It was the only ray of hope we had to topple this situation bereft of clues.
じゃあレナ、リカちゃんはどこへ醤油をもらいに行ったんだ?
That was the heart of it. It would have to be somewhere she'd be comfortable with asking for soy sauce, and somewhere Sadako wouldn't think it was suspicious that she'd been invited for dinner. Mion's house? So, who was it? Rena slowly shook her head.
レナの推理はここまで。
Oh,
あくまでも想像だからね。
okay.
警察の人とかには内緒に
That's
しておい
it?
て
We don't, that's the end? I mean, like, to me, Mion's house, right? Like, I guess I don't know the layout of Hinamizawa very well, so I don't know, like, where Mion's house is in relation to the shrine, but Mion's house would make sense to me. Mion's house, I feel like they would be the ones under the least suspicion by the village. Of course, that ignores, I have no idea why it would be Mion.
隠すことはないんじゃないか? 仮に半分しか会ってないとしても、きっとヒントにはなると思うぞ。
ケイチ君、これってひなみ沢の人を疑うって意味だよ。確信もないのに村の人を疑えない。
I saw a few girls coming over to rinse out their bento boxes. Rena cut the conversation short there and returned to the classroom. I stayed there alone, my body bathed in the lively voices of the cicadas. Let's think about this. In my own way, Rena had barely any information to go on, and yet she'd reasoned out that much. So there should be something that only I, who knew far more than Rena did, could deduce. Ooishi-san said this last night too, but this incident was definitely occurring within Hinamizawa. Rena might not have wanted to believe it, but it's basically a given that the culprit is someone from the village. The trigger for everything was when the four of us trespassed in the Forbidden Storehouse. Like, kinda, I guess. Somebody saw us going in there. For the culprits, breaking the taboo was a crime punishable by death. I think we're just immediately off the wrong track here. I just don't think the way Keiichi's think about any of this is correct. I just don't believe it. I just don't think it's right. Like, like, maybe. I just don't believe him. I just think the way he thinks about all of this is just wrong. So that night, Tomitake-san and Takano-san were sacrificed. There were two left. Shion and myself. However, before the culprits bore their fangs on Shion and me, they went after the mayor, to whom Shion had confessed her sin. Next, they went for Ruka-chan, to whom I had confessed my sin. Then what about Sadako? Just the stray bullet? By itself, Ruka-chan being sacrificed after I'd told her everything was mortifying. But Sadako, who was sacrificed for no reason, wasn't that all the more regrettable? Or it could just make you rethink everything you're thinking, and that it's not actually an omnipotent force that's killing everyone that you tell anything. Like, I just don't... How would anyone even know you told Ruka about it? You know what I mean? Like, unless he thinks that, oh, Yashiro-sama is to blame. I just don't... Everything was my fault. Who would be the next to disappear? Would it be Shion and me next time? Why? Why weren't the culprits going for Shion and me right away, though? If they had enough power to erase the mayor and Ruka-chan, then why not just get rid of Shion and me? If they went for us, well, I wouldn't like it, but I could still tolerate it. What I couldn't forgive was them getting rid of those we'd confessed to. Now that I think of it, yesterday, Shion said something alarming. She felt like someone was watching her. Yeah, which sounds like Keiichi thinking he's being gang-stalked. So then, was someone watching me as well? Strangely though, I hadn't felt anything like that until now. I'm telling you, the author knows what I'm thinking. You know, it's telling me, no, Keiichi isn't feeling that because he's not the one being affected by it. Shion is thinking she's being gang-stalked. Like... Even though I'm the root cause of everything, I had never once had that impression. Keiichi, get a grip. You're the root cause of everything? Like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, please, like... God, maybe that was simply because Shion was more cautious than me, and I was just careless. That was another story, though. Let's get back on track. Why weren't the culprits going after Shion and me? Let me read that one more time, sorry. Okay. I felt like that's where the key to this lay. Could it be... Was I making a big assumption that I shouldn't have been? Uh-huh. I thought and thought, but couldn't come up with an answer. The one thing I understood was that I was a concerned party to this case, and that I had a duty to watch over it until everything got resolved. If you say so, I don't think you have good reason to think that, like, at all, other than, like, concerned party in terms of all your friends are disappearing. I heard the ring of the bell declaring the end of lunch break. Would somebody else disappear tonight? If nobody else did, then I wanted them to get rid of me tonight for sure. And then put an end to all of this. Shion's hysterical voice on the phone last night came to mind. They planned to murder those close to us first, make us as miserable as possible, and only then would they kill us. At the principal's urging, I returned to the classroom, which was quiet as the streets at night. Oh, man. There were a lot of parents picking up their children after school. It was just like a kindergarten. The students whose parents didn't come went home as a group. We left school with everyone else, following the assigned route. Even while leaving, nobody said anything funny. They all just looked like exhausted mountaineers silently marching through the mountains. As we went, one left, and then another, and in the end it was just Rena and me. I was supposed to escort Rena all the way to her house, but she declined. Well, one of you is going to have to go alone. You'd have to walk back by yourself. Yeah. Still light out. Oh, God. Oh, God. Ooishi. Ooishi, please, 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 why, please? Oh, no. I want him to go away. I want him to die. I don't like Ooishi. Rena pointed towards my house. There was a car stopped in front of it. Where's the license plate, huh? From out of that car came Ooishi-san. He must have been waiting for my return to ambush me. Ooishi-san started walking over, wearing that annoying grin. You need to start carrying the bat around again, Keiichi. We got something to deal with here.
Rena はもう行きな。あいつに絡まれると長い。
でもどうして警察の人が圭一君に用があるんだろう。
Nothing good. Rena's a good person. Even when I made a fuss over Ruka-chan's disappearance, she never asked me why I did. She could have been suspecting me ever since then, and that would have been okay. Even so, she still didn't ask me anything. She didn't try and pressure me into revealing the truth.
俺は犯人じゃない。
そんなの知ってるよ。
でも事件に何の関わりもない。
Oh, God.
言い切れない。
What is that going to make her think? Rena simply listened, smiling like she always did. Even though I had insinuated I was related to the incident, she didn't look at me as though she were looking at something dirty. And again, it's possible that Rena already knows some of what happened, right? Mion did, Rika did, and it seemed like from what Mion was saying, it was just like a vague rumor in the village that they had snuck into the warehouse, you know? So...
今度話すよ。
待ってるね。
じゃあ早く行きな。
Rena gave me a slight bow and trotted away, leaving me alone with Ooishi-san, who walked over.
どうもどうも。
Go
お
away!
帰りなさい、前原さん。
どうも。
ご家族はお留守みたいですね。
Oh, great.
い
Fantastic.
やはや困っていたんですよ。
Good. He came all the way to my house? I could only thank my good fortune that my parents were absent. Since neither of them was around at this hour, they would probably be back late.
親父の仕事の関係で出かけてるんだと思います。帰りは遅いと思いますよ。
Not gonna be the same as
そうですか。
Onikashi. They're gonna be gone for a whole day, is it? I wonder.
それは好都合です。親御さんに変な思いをさせずに済みます。
Ooishi-san pushed my back, prompting me to walk. It seemed like he wanted me to get in the car.
警察に連行するんですか？
I wasn't the culprit, but I was the cause of everything. It wouldn't be weird if he wanted to investigate me. He just keeps thinking that. He is just so... It's like he has a persecution complex. Like, maybe that's the wrong word to use. He's just so... He can't think of it in any way other than it is all my fault, no matter what. You know, he keeps repeating it to himself over and over and over again. He is so sure it has to be him. And it's interesting because it brings me back to the idea of, like, how hard it would be to accept that it's just, like, the village being evil or something, right? Like, Keiichi wants to think it's all his fault. Because if it's not all his fault, then that means there's some kind of, you know... this is happening for a bad reason, basically. He wants there to be a reason for why this is happening, even if that reason is him, you know? That kind of gave me a resigned feeling.
いえいえ、立ち話もなんですから。車の中でお話ししようってだけですよ。さあさあ、どうぞどうぞ。
He opened the back door and urged me inside. If I got in, I wouldn't have a very easy time getting out. If I said no, however, then this man might really handcuff me and take me away. I couldn't refuse. I could only accept in good grace. The inside of the car had been cooled too much by the air conditioner, and there was a rusty smell coming from the filter, which must have been only cleaned rarely. We're back to the air
あ
conditioner.
りゃ、冷えすぎます？
It's too cold.
切りましょうか。
He turned off the engine and suddenly became quiet, and the voices of the Higurashi, with all their cool loneliness, snuck inside. It sounded to me like a chorus of voices, lamenting my exorbitant punishment for having harbored such foolish curiosity. For a few moments, while listening to those voices, I myself lamented, the days that had been twisted and distorted since that night. Ooishi-san, as if waiting for me to voluntarily begin talking, lit a cigarette and listened to the Higurashi. The silence became deafening, and I was the one who folded first.
捜査の方はどうなってるんですか？
捜査？何のですか？
Oh, shut up.
最近はいっぱいありすぎて、どれのことやら。
全部です。
いいですよ。本当は報道管制の敷かれた秘密捜査なんですが、あなたには特別に聞かせてあげましょう。
Of course. Naturally.
じゃあ、最初の事件からいきます。
The freak deaths of Tomitake-san and Takano-san on the night of
こっ
Watanagashi.
ちはお恥ずかしいかな。さっぱり進展なしです。 まずは富武さん。集団で暴行を受けた形跡はあるのですが、自分の喉をかき破るなんて異常な死に方の説明がつかないんです。
Same circumstances as last time.
何らかの薬物中毒を疑っているんですが、
Right.
高野さんはどんな感じなんです？
同じくさっぱりです。焼死死体は検視が非常に困難でして、首を絞められた後にガソリンをかけられたんじゃないかと見ています。
Oh, after she was strangled. So she couldn't have done it by herself then.
管
Okay.
轄が岐阜県さんでね。あちらさん、自分たちの縄張りの事件だからってあんまり協力的じゃないんですよ。
Why did his voice suddenly start sounding different?
これは関係ない話ですね。
So the police didn't know anything other than the fact that the victims died inexplicably.
ですが、犯行時間はおおむねお祭りが終わった直後だろうと見ています。高野さんの方はちょっとあやふやですが、富武さんと
Same
同
time.
じ時刻に殺害され、岐阜の山中に遺棄されたと考えるのが妥当でしょうな。
Let me read one more time what he said about Tomitake. Yeah. Okay.
富武さん
Oh,
も
whoops, I just scrolled a
同じ
bunch.
ように遠くへ運べばよかったのに。
ありゃ。前原さん、あなた、なかなか同期で鋭いですね。もちろん、私もそこは注目すべき点だと思っていますよ。他にもいくつか不審点はありますが、まあ、現時点でお話しできるのは。
Alright.
村長さんの方は
What, I
どうで
mean,
すか？
what are the other suspicious things? Like, you know, this is what, like, come on. He's just doing that to, like, bait Keiichi into trying to tell him stuff. Like, oh, there's all this vague, suspicious stuff that I'm not going to tell you, but, you know, maybe if you say some things.
何か手がかりはありましたか？
Having exhausted that topic, I changed the subject. Otherwise, he might turn the conversation on me.
失踪された一日の足取りを調べました。手がかりになるようなものは見つかりませんでしたが、一応お話ししましょうか。
The mayor, Kichiro Kimiyoshi. Apparently, he was suffering from severe
古
hemorrhoids.
い生まれの方って非常にプライドが高いんですよね。それで村長さん、誰にも内緒で獅子骨市内にある大学病院の肛門科に通われていたんです。
Is that...
失踪当日、
Yeah.
村長さんは診察の予約が取ってあったんで、朝一で出かけられました。
Even I knew that big hospitals, like university hospitals, had a really long waiting time. Apparently, people would get in line hours beforehand, even if they had an appointment.
診察が終わったのは午後1時頃です。その後、病院内のレストランで軽食を取られ、雑誌を読みながら時間を潰されました。この辺りのことは、自宅にあったお財布の中のレシートで分かってます。
Okay. So he made it back home just fine. His wallet was home. There was nothing suspicious at all about
そ
that.
の日は夕方から神社の集会場で会合の予定があったんです。それで余裕を持ってお帰りになるはずだったんですが、途中電車で人身事故がありましてね。
An accident.
どうもそれで足止めを食ってしまったらしく、家に着いたのは会合の時間の直前でした。
Okay.
ご家族が大慌てで神社の集会場に出かけていく村長さんを目撃しています。
会合ってのは何だったんですか？確かその会合の帰り道に失踪してるんですよね。
会合は御三家と町会の主要役員が集まってのものでした。今年も起こってしまった連続開始事件の対応について協議したものと思われます。
Three families and the essential members of the town assembly were at the meeting. Okay. So, I'm gonna assume Mion was there. Was Rika there? If it's the three families, right? Probably. I wonder what was discussed exactly. If it was the stuff about people sneaking into the warehouse. So then, on his way home, the old man, who had treated Shion like his own daughter. He was a dependable person who would encourage Shion whenever she felt pressured by anxiety, and yet, Shion's painful voice struck me right in the heart.
あれ？
どうなさいました？
I was taken aback by how strange my voice sounded. Oh? What was it that just surprised me? I don't know either. I squeezed my head with my hands to try to drag back out what I had only realized for a split second. Remember, Keiichi Maibara, you just realized something important. Tell me what it is, please, because I don't know. The night of Watanagashi. That was when everything started. That night, Takane-san and Tomitake-san died. The next morning, word of the incident had spread throughout Hinamizawa. They planned to talk about it during the evening meeting. The mayor, however, had an appointment at the hospital, and as planned, he went there without telling his family. He got a checkup at the hospital, had lunch, ate something, walked home, and then there was an unexpected delay on his train ride back, had a train ride back, because he wouldn't walk, it'd be pretty long. When he returned, the meeting was already about to start. The mayor changed clothes, got on his bicycle, and hurried to the assembly hall at the shrine as fast as he could. From when he heard about the incident on the night of Watanagashi until when he showed up at the assembly hall, everything he was doing that day was done in secret. During that time, nobody found out that he went to the hospital alone, he ate alone, he got on the train alone. That all meant he had absolutely no contact with anyone else. So how did Shion tell him about what happened? Is that what we're getting at? You couldn't have even called him on the phone. Okay. But what does that mean, Keiichi Maibara? Why does that matter, Keiichi Maibara? Ah.
ゆうちゃん、私、どうしよう。
どうした？話せよ。俺たちの間で隠し事はなしだろ？
私、
Uh-huh.
おじいちゃんに打ち明けたんです。
But she wouldn't just be I mean, why would she just be lying about it, though? Right? Like, I don't, like... I mean, she could have told him when because he was around the Okonomiya area for his checkup, right? Or am I wrong about that? I just don't know. Like, I shouldn't, you know, who knows where this is going exactly. I told him everything. I told old man Kamiyoshi everything.
村長さんに、私、あの晩、最後でに忍び込んだこと。
That night.
誰かにそれを見られてて、私たちを狙っている人がいるって。
ああ、それで
君吉のおじいちゃん、怒らなかった。そして、にっこり笑って、しおちゃんがちゃんと反省してるなら、本当に笑いながら。
Leave it to him.
任せなさい。
Just like what Rika said, right? Sweat burst out of my body like bullets. They became one long strand and slid down from my forehead to my nose, and fell. So then... What does it mean? Hey, Keiichi Maibara, no more playing dumb. When did she tell him? Yeah, exactly. Shion said she learned of the incident from a phone call her father had made that morning. The mayor had left the house first thing in the morning for his appointment at the hospital. He didn't tell anybody where he was going. Nobody knew about him going to the university hospital. Furthermore, his train ride back to his house was delayed by an accident. As soon as he got home, he rushed out to the assembly hall. Then the meeting at the assembly hall began, and continued until it was dark out. Then everyone left. Nobody saw him after the meeting was over. He just disappeared. Which meant, Shion told him... I mean, like, what does it mean? What does it mean, right? Like, Shion could have told him... I just don't understand. Why would Shion have been in Hinamizawa in that moment anyway, right? Like, under what circumstances is Shion showing up to tell the mayor everything, right? Like, I think it would be a pretty big coincidence for him to just randomly run into the mayor on his way to or back from his hospital visit, right? I think that'd be weird. I don't think it's that. There would be no reason for her to be on the train with him. It would only make sense for her to be in Hinamizawa to tell him. Why would she come to Hinamizawa? Would she come to Hinamizawa just to tell him, just to confess everything to him? I guess maybe if he's that important to her and she feels like she would get that much out of telling him. But then it's like the only time that she could have told him is right before he disappeared. You know, like literally right before he disappeared, right? Like, she could have been waiting for him on the way back from the assembly hall. That's the only possible time, right? Another part of me was messing with my thoughts, demanding that I didn't think any further than that. My head was pounding violently, and the fluids packed inside it, all blended together until nothing made sense. I was just about to settle, yet it had been smashed and melted in the blink of an eye, no longer able to retain its shape. God.
はい。
Ooishi-san lit yet another cigarette. There was yet another cigarette butt placed in the ashtray. Was it displaying the passage of time? Had my thoughts been frozen over that long?
私、知ってる限りのことを話したつもりです。お返しに、今度は前原さんの話を聞かせてもらってもいいですよね。
God. My mind had become a gigantic oozing mess. My brain felt like it had been totally minced by the blades of a blender, and I couldn't think.
ほらほら、また黙り込む。もし誤解があるようなら先に解いておきたいんですがね。私は別にあなたが犯人だなんて思っちゃいないんです。
Do you think it's Shion? Ooishi-san gave his best attempt at an adult smile.
あの晩、あなたたち4人が西宮殿に忍び込んだことは知っています。次の日にはもう村の知る人は誰でも知る噂になってましたからね。
But rumors that came from who?
それ
You
自
know?
体は不法侵入として問われるべきことですが、問題はそれじゃない。
Should you? Or trespassing laws different in Japan? I guess.
そこで何があったかなんです。忍び込んだ人間が次々と犠牲になるような何があったのか。
何もなかったです。
As soon as I said it, I regretted confirming my presence there, but I knew it didn't matter anymore.
本当に何もなかったんですか？
It was empty.
だって現にこうして中に入った人たちが次々と犠牲になってるんですよ。しかも扉の鍵を付け替えた村長やリカさんまで犠牲に。
And he has not put any thought into that at all.
それだけの事態を引き起こす何があの中にあったん
But
だ。
of course, I don't really put any stock into that idea either. Like, I don't think they were killed because of that. I think that's like crazy. Like, I don't know. I was far too tired of keeping quiet about this. Perhaps that was Ooishi-san's goal all along. But again, that didn't matter
大
anymore.
昔に使った拷問道具が、それを高野さんたちと見て回りました。
本当にそれだけ？
本当にそれだけです。
口封じをされるようなとんでもないもの
well.
が隠してあったんじゃないですか？
The stories that Takano-san told him were terrible enough.
例えば覚醒剤の山とか
No.
消しの秘密工場があったとか、あるいはソ連か中国あたりの拳銃が山ほど積まれていたと。不審な木箱やコンテナが山積みされてませんでしたか？
There was nothing. As exaggerated as what Ooishi-san was hoping for, but I felt like, in a way, there were plenty of terrible things hidden there. From the perspective of someone who viewed the storehouse as sacred, whether or not I thought I had seen some crazy things didn't matter in the slightest. The four of us broke the taboo. Punish us. That should have been what happened.
あの西宮殿に何か秘密があるんじゃないかと思っ
And
て
the congressman does not want that to
捜査令状を請求したんですがね。もう空前絶後の妨害工作がありまして、信仰の対象に対する侮辱であり、憲法で定めた
that
信
doesn't
仰の
make
自由
sense.
をなんたらかんたら。
Not how it works. I can't say my religion is for the cops to not be allowed to do anything to me.
いやもうだから実際に入ったあなたに聞くほかはなかったんですよ。
本当に古い錆びて埃をかぶった拷問道具しかなかったです。他に目立つものなんて何もなかったです。
The noise? I mean, I don't know what he would tell him,
富武
though,
さんたち
about
が
that.
殺されたのは禁忌を破ったからという制裁だけなんですかね。
I didn't have an answer for the only part.
もういちいち隠しませんけどね。
Okay.
あなただけが今日まで被害を免れた。
Shion?
あなた以外は全員が消えた
Oh,
のに
Shion.
あなただけが無事なんです。
Shion is gone?
あなたが無事で、あなた以外が被害に遭
Oh,
う。
Shion is
どんな
gone.
違いがあったのか。
Shion is gone, or Mion is gone, right? It could be Shion, it could be Mion. I mean, like, I don't know, right? Like,
それが知りたいんです。
there was something wrong with what Ooishi-san was saying. You alone. You alone. What?
ちょっと待ってください。あなただけがってどういう意味ですか？
ですから、あなただけが最後の生き残りなんじゃないですか。
No more Sonozaki Shion. But it could be Mion who disappeared, right? Or it could be neither of them. I don't know. I literally don't know. Like, I guess it depends on what evidence he has for thinking that Shion disappeared, right? Because in my mind, Shion's going crazy, so Shion could be doing anything anywhere right now. Like, Shion could have killed Mion and is now pretending to be Mion, right? Like, But if that is what happens, what am I saying I think happened then? That Shion is going crazy. She got off the phone with Keiichi at the end of the last phone call. Immediately got on her bike, rode down to Okonomiya, decapitated Mion and threw her in the swamp, put on all of Mion's clothes, and now she's pretending to be Mion. Like, why would she do that? You know? Like, maybe. Like, I guess I need to know when Shion disappeared, and the only one left alive. Hold on. Shion was still. The next day. But we've talked to Shion on that day. As in, like, that night she disappeared? So you're telling me then that that was Mion on the phone pretending to be Shion? So then are we saying that, like, Shion had disappeared that night, the night of their first phone call, right? Because that was the next day. And then it was Mion pretending to be Shion on the phone on their second phone call, and I've just had this backwards the whole time. And that would make sense because, like, we knew that Mion had a connection to Kimiyoshi, so her telling him everything makes sense. With Shion having a connection to Kimiyoshi, it was kind of, like, weird, right, how they both did. So was it Mion the whole time on the phone? But I don't remember. I had some reason for thinking it wasn't Mion on the phone, right? I remember when we got to that second phone call, I was saying, like, okay, is this Shion or is it Mion? And there was something that Shion said or did that I'm like, okay, so it is Shion then. But was it just Mion? I don't remember what it is, so it's kind of hard for me to say. I'm literally gonna go back and look at my video. You know, I'm gonna go back and do it right now. I don't care. We're taking a break from the recording once. Okay, so going back to it. Oops, my bad. So going back, I just rewatched my video of that conversation, the second phone call, right? There really wasn't any actual confirmation that was Shion on the phone, right? The only real thing that makes me think it was Shion was she pretty much started off the conversation by saying, like, okay, can we talk to each other without you getting angry again? You know, which, like, shows that she pretty much knows that she must have been the one on the first phone call, which must have been Shion, or, like, I'm quite sure it was Shion, you know? Because I guess technically Keiichi did start off by apologizing to her immediately and saying he was sorry, but her saying, okay, can we talk without you getting mad this time, makes me think that had to be Shion on the phone, right? I think it had to be. And then thinking back even further, right, like, Ooishi-san, when Keiichi and Shion were on their little library date, Ooishi said that thing about how, like, oh, Keiichi, you were two-time in both the Sonozaki sisters, or whatever, you know? So by that point, Ooishi obviously, Shion wasn't gone by that point yet, right? And that was the day after, right? That was, so we would be being led to think that Shion must have disappeared that night, the night after their first phone call, right? But again, I'm really wondering if it's actually Mion who disappeared, and it's Shion now pretending to be Mion. I just don't know. Because oh god, I don't know what to think either way. I feel like I have evidence for both. The second phone call being Mion makes sense because there really isn't clear confirmation that it's Shion, right? Like, the author doesn't go out of his way to confirm to us that, okay, you are talking to Shion right now, right? We kind of get this very vague sense that, okay, it's probably Shion, but and then Shion does freak out about Kimiyoshi and his death, when before this, we already knew that Mion had a very close relationship with Kimiyoshi, so Mion having that kind of reaction to his death would make sense. But, like, now that I'm saying that, it's like I realize, you know, Mion should have already known that Kimiyoshi was dead, right? So why would, if that was Mion on the phone on the night of the second phone call, why would she have had this crazy reaction to Kimiyoshi's death, you know? No, that just doesn't make sense to me at all. So, I feel like actually it had to be Shion on the second phone call. I kind of just brought myself all the way back around. I think it has to have been Shion with the second phone call. I think it has to have been. And so that makes me think if one of the two sisters has disappeared, that they think it's Shion, but it's actually Mion, and that now Shion is pretending to be Mion. That is what I think. I unintentionally raised my voice, but I didn't care about that. Tomitake-san died, Takane-san died, and Shion disappeared. Okay. It's also possible they're both alive. We don't know why they think Shion disappeared, right? Shion was going insane. She could just be running around in the woods. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm just really trying to wrap my head around this, right? Like, if I'm saying that I think Mion is the one who disappeared, it was Shion on the phone that night. What I have to be saying, again, is that Shion got off the phone with Keiichi after freaking out, immediately booked it down to Hinamizawa, threw Mion into the swamp, put on all of Mion's clothes, and has been pretending to be Mion. She, like, flawlessly has fit into Mion's social position. You know what I mean? Like, her ordering everyone around and stuff that night on their search for Rika and Sadako, all that crazy shit, right? She is somehow just perfectly assimilated into Mion's mind, and is perfectly pretending to be Mion. And for what reason? Like, why would she be doing this? You know what I mean? But if I'm saying it's Mion who is on the phone on the night of the second phone call, because Ooishi-san's saying that Shion was already gone by then that doesn't make sense. Why would Mion freak out learning about Kimiyoshi's disappearance when Mion already obviously knew, right? Unless we're doing some insane, crazy, unhinged stuff where Shion and Mion have been switched since the beginning, and we just don't know anything, and everything we've ever thought we've known about either of them is wrong. I guess that's possible. I don't know. Let's just continue. When did she disappear? What is this guy talking about?
特にご存知だったとばかり。
そんなのは初めて聞いた。シオンが失踪した。いつ？
遡るとWatanagashiの次の日に失
Uh-huh.
踪してい
Like
た。
what? I mean, but they were at the library that day. Going back a bit. Stop saying stuff I don't
シ
understand.
オンさんはその日の気分で親類の家を泊まり歩いたりしますので、
Uh-huh.
学校も気分一つでよく休みますしね。先生も困り果ててま
Okay.
した。
And she mentioned that when we were on the library date, right
そんなことは
before.
聞いてない。シオンはいつ失踪したかって聞いてるんだ。
ですから、
When?
次の日です。
But that doesn't make sense. The fluids in my body all reversed direction. I lost my sense of balance, and everything I could see started to warp and twist out of shape. I simply couldn't endure it. Hang on. Shion had already disappeared. And I guess, here, like, if I'm going full down this idea that it is Shion pretending to be Mion right now, like, we have had this weird stuff with Mion being the chosen daughter who's going to take over the Sonozaki family, and this dynamic between Shion and Mion where, for us, it seems like Shion has been like the crazy, evil, mean bully towards Mion. But I think that her attitude makes more sense towards Mion, acknowledging the fact that it seems clear that Mion is like the favored daughter compared to Shion, right? So that alone feels like a vague kind of motivation Shion would have to kill Mion and like literally take her place in that case, you know? Not saying that like she did it in the right of mind. I think Shion's going insane. So, like, I can imagine it being possible, right? And that fits in with her, like, taking over Mion's social role, too. It all just depends. If the timeline is off by one day and they're wrong about when she disappeared, then a lot of stuff makes more sense to me, because then it could have been Shion on the second phone call, and Mion there on the night of when they were, last night, when they were looking for everyone, because that's the problem, is if you're saying it was either Mion doing both of those, doing the phone call, and who showed up to help look for Rena and Rika and Sadako, or you're saying it was Shion who did the phone call, and Shion who replaced Mion to do the search, both of those I feel like there's some crazy shit you gotta say for that to be possible. Yeah. She called me every night. She encouraged me. We vowed we would do our best to live on and not be erased. Yes, that should have been a phone call with Shion. Should have been a phone call with Shion. Should have been a phone call with Shion.
学校は平気で休むし、それを自宅に知らせても取り合ってもらえないから、学校もいちいち電話しない。
But again, I just can't, because it really feels like the game is telling me right now, like, okay, that second phone call, it wasn't actually Shion, it was Mion. But that just doesn't make sense to me. That just literally, like, why would Mion freak out like that about Kimiyoshi's death, if that's true, right? She already knew. We saw the tip of her searching for Kimiyoshi, right? And why would Mion pretend to act like that, right?
そんなこんなで、彼女が失踪したことに気づくのに、だいぶ時間がかかったんですよ。
I felt a stabbing pain like needles were being pushed into every pore of my body. It started on my back and began spreading throughout the rest of me. When it completely covered the surface of my skin, it began to worm its way inside my stomach as well.
ほら、覚えてませんか？
At the library?
渡流しの次
Yeah.
の日に、私たち図書館でお会いしたでしょ。あの時、シオンさんもいましたよね。
Uh-huh.
あれが最後の目撃なんです。あの後、彼女の所在は確認されてないんです。
But she definitely called Keiichi that night, right? Like, that had to have been her who called him that night, right? Because she just immediately started talking about stuff that it doesn't make sense for Mion to have known, right? Unless Mion tied up Shion and tortured her and got her to tell her everything, just so she could manipulate Keiichi, like, I guess. Like, I guess if both phone calls... But no, it still doesn't make sense to me how it could have been Mion on the second phone call. So... And, like, Shion told him that she was gonna call him, right? Like... Sorry. That day, Ooishi-san had only caught me, and Shion bounded away, lying that she needed to go to work. Didn't she call me that night?
っていうファミレスのバイトですよね。
あ
の日から無断欠勤。今日に至るまで全てを無断欠勤。
maybe?
お店の人も連絡を取ろうにも取れず。
But
出ましたよ。
was that her job, or was that Mion's job? Or was that both of their jobs? You know what I mean? Because, like, it's been the implication now that it was Mion at Angel Mort. You know, every time until that last time. Because, like, when Keiichi was thinking back about how it was Mion who told him all this stuff about the dismemberment, or not the dismemberment, about the dam protests and stuff that happened at Angel Mort. And he was, in his mind at least, thinking that was Mion, right? Mion must have worked there at some point, right? There's no way it was Shion there the whole time. I mean, like, I guess, then it's like the advanced trolling from the author. Because Keiichi was certainly thinking of it in the case of it having been Mion that whole time until that last time at Angel Mort. Harsh voice.
状況証拠だけですがね。図書館でお別れしてからバイト先に向かうまで。
that doesn't make sense to me. Right after Shion ran away without me?
ご存知なかったみたいですね。なら、先に話せばもっと話が早かったかな?
Oh, don't say that.
もう、これでご理解いただけたでしょ?
But like on that first phone call, that night, Shion, like, literally said, like, oh, you should have ran away or something from Ooishi, right? Like, it was obvious that was Shion on the phone, right? There was no way that was Mion on the phone, unless Mion tortured Shion to tell her her entire life story so she could troll Keiichi. Like, that had to be Shion on phone call 1. And I feel like it also had to be Shion on phone call 2.
あとは、あなただけなんです。あなただけが No, I
think it's Mion. I think it's Mion who's dead. I think it is. Like, job is at a restaurant called Angel Mort. But, like, would the police make that mistake? Would the people at Angel Mort make that mistake? That it's actually Mion that works there and not Shion? You know what I mean? Because obviously they made... Oh, God. Unless it really was Shion the whole time, but that's just so silly. There's no way it was Shion the whole time. That wouldn't make sense to me. That just wouldn't make sense to me that it was Shion the whole time at Angel Mort. Just because of, like, the stuff that Keiichi was thinking about how, like, and, like, the time when Shion Shion's attitude towards Ooishi. Right. The scene where we had Shion / Mion save Keiichi from all the hooligans that were trying to beat him up, right? And Shion, who we thought was Shion at the time, had a very, like, cold attitude towards Ooishi, right? That being Mion makes much more sense. We know Mion doesn't like Ooishi, right? And Shion is the one who, like, even on that second phone call, said to Keiichi that we should tell the cops everything, if you think that's right. Like, I don't think Mion would ever say that, because she doesn't like Ooishi, right? Like, even in Onikashi, Mion was thinking about how she should have killed Ooishi, whatever that means, right? And Ooishi doesn't like Mion, right, because of the whole Yakuza stuff. And, like, and then there's just the one line of Keiichi thinking about how Mion is the one who told him about the dam protests that happened at Angel Mort. And I guess if Keiichi's thinking that was Mion who told him all that stuff, like, I guess Keiichi could still be wrong, and that it actually was Shion the whole time at Angel Mort. But that would just be crazy to me. So, I think they were just wrong about who disappeared. I think it was Mion who disappeared. But then what do I think happened? That Shion, immediately after leaving the library, stabbed Mion to death and replaced her for some reason? And if Shion had replaced Mion that early, Shion would have also already known about Kimiyoshi's disappearance, because we had the tip with Mion being, like, the ringleader of them searching for Kimiyoshi after his disappearance. So then it could bring me back to the thing that if whichever one that was in that tip, they already knew that Kimiyoshi was gone. So that couldn't have been the same Mion / Shion that was on phone call 2 who had that reaction to learning about Kimiyoshi's death. It couldn't be. It just couldn't be. Or Ooishi could be lying. Like, It can't be. It can't be. Shion had already disappeared. That couldn't be. It couldn't be. I talked to her the day before yesterday. I talked to her last night. She's going to call me again today. That was Shion on the phone. It was Shion from Shion. Then, who was on the phone this past nights? I mean, like, I just literally can't tell. I can't tell if I'm insane and I'm overthinking this way too much. And I'm just missing something obvious, and that this is just the game telling me, oh yeah, that was Mion on the phone. And I'm just being, like, incredibly stupid and rejecting that information. That's totally possible, in which case I'm sure there'll be people mad at me in the comments, I guess. But right now, with the information I feel like I have, unless I'm making some giant mistake about the way I'm thinking about this, it doesn't make sense to me. No, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. If I'm wrong, and it was Mion on the phone both times, someone's gonna have to explain that to me. Like, I just don't know how that's possible. So, like, I guess it's possible. I guess. Dude, I don't know. I lay down on the couch and stayed there dazed for a while. My mind was completely blank. I couldn't think about anything for more than a few seconds. Me too, man. I'm gonna go look at that first phone call again. Take another break. Okay, yeah, literally. The first phone call opens up with Shion saying, "We ran into some trouble today, didn't we? You should have ran away with me." Like, impossible for that to have been Mion on the first phone call. Unless Mion tied Shion to an electric chair and tortured her. That doesn't make sense. And, like, forced her to tell her everything that had ever happened in her entire life so that she could perfectly pretend to be her on the phone with Keiichi. Like, I guess. Unless Mion had actually disappeared before, and it was Mion pretending to be Shion even at the library. Is that possible? Is that possible? Maybe. Maybe. I guess that's possible, that it was Mion even before then. I just have no idea. I just literally don't know what to say. I don't know what to think anymore. I gotta sit here and think for a second. So, why could it not be Mion having replaced Shion that early on? Right. What makes that not possible? I don't know. Is there anything? Is there anything? Do I need to go look up? Do I need to go? Are we taking a 5th break and we're gonna go check again to see what the circumstances of before they went to the library? Because like now we're literally getting into the extreme minutia of these things that I have to remember like perfectly. So we are literally taking another break so I can go look at that. Okay, that was the last time, I promise. I looked at everything leading up. The first time that Shion called to tell Keiichi that she wanted to talk, and then Keiichi said, "Oh, I gotta go to the library." Shion was like, "Oh, I can show you where it is." Blah 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 blah. All that shit, right? I can't see anything. There's nothing in those scenes that to me confirms that actually was Shion and that it wasn't Mion, right? In fact, the scene when he meets up with Shion in Okinomiya has a bunch of lines that feel like the author trolling me. It has a whole bunch of Keiichi saying like, "Oh, you two are so different, ha ha ha, I can't believe you guys are, blah blah blah, Shion and Mion, you guys sure are different people, haha." Which makes me feel like if it actually just was Mion there, then that's the author trolling me, right? Which makes sense. And there's also the thing with her seeming like she had a hangover, just like what Mion said, right? Like, Keiichi literally pointed out saying like, "Oh, it seems like you're like unsteady too, just like Mion," right? So it literally could have been Mion. It literally could have been Mion at the library date, and that could have just not been Shion. So here are the only two ways that this whole crazy shit makes any sense to me, right? Is it has to have been Mion since almost the start. It has to have been Mion who called him that first time when he was going to the library. It had to be Mion at the library. It had to be Mion who called him the first time on the phone. It had to be Mion on phone call 2, but that doesn't make sense to me because Mion should have already known that Kimiyoshi was gone. So her having that crazy freak out about it doesn't make sense to me, right? Especially because she would have to be double faking it because Mion also knows that she isn't the one who went into the warehouse. That was Shion, right? So she would have had to be faking learning about his death and faking that she was pretending to be feeling guilty about doing anything, So it's possible that it was Mion ever since the library scene. That was Mion pretending to be Shion, and Shion has been dead since then. The alternative is that it's Mion who's dead, and that Shion killed Mion, or whatever, and that Shion has been replacing Mion ever since the night of the second phone call. Which, genuinely, the idea of Shion immediately running down from Okinomiya to murder Mion and replace her somehow seems less crazy to me than the logical things you have to say, the logical loops you have to go through to try and say that it was Mion from the beginning. Okay. Alright. Okay. We didn't get it figured out. I was gonna say we got it all figured out, we didn't. There was a note in my house saying that Mom and Dad would be home late, and that I should have some ramen or something for dinner. I could make it whenever I got hungry, but I had no appetite, so I just stared blankly at the ceiling without eating anything. If we hadn't seen Shion and Mion at the same time a couple times, right now I would be saying that there is no Shion and Mion, and that it's actually just one person. The hands of the clock were already pointing at 10. Would I get another phone call like that today? Even though Shion had already disappeared, would she still call me? Where were they calling from, and who were they? Well, come on, dude, you know what the alternative is. The more I thought about it, the more I started to tremble. I even thought about just disconnecting the phone line. If I had been thinking a little less logically, I really would have done it too. Hold on, Keiichi Maibara. Ooishi-san admitted it himself, didn't he? That Shion went missing a lot? Couldn't she have just gone to relatives that Ooishi-san didn't know about and have been there ever since? And that's what's giving me hope. I mean, hope. That they are wrong about the disappearance timeline. And that she didn't actually disappear that night of the library date. And she disappeared the next night, right? That would make more sense to me. Because that fits with the idea of it having been Mion who disappeared, not Shion. Shion and I were both being targeted by somebody, so it wouldn't be strange to think she went somewhere she usually didn't in order to hide. That must have been why Ooishi-san couldn't locate her, and why he labeled her a disappearance. Yeah, that had to be it. Shion hadn't disappeared at all. Then, my right hand moved of its own volition and slapped me on the cheek. Its cold sting let me calm down a little. Oh my god. I knew I didn't want to admit she had disappeared. Admitting it would mean that something terrifying was definitely happening. I just needed to figure out whether Shion was the one on the phone or not. Would I ask her if she was actually Shion? That seemed like an incredibly absurd thing to do. If the person on the other end still believed that I thought she was Shion, then that gave me a tiny advantage. Casually, completely casually, I would listen to what she had to say and fend her off. I would tear the skin off the monster. It would definitely be very scary for me. However, as the last survivor of the people who went into the storehouse that night, this was my duty to perform. Still, then who would call me and pretend to be Shion? Keiichi, you're just pretending to not know. I may have only heard her over the phone, but her voice shouldn't be that easy to replicate. That was definitely Shion's voice. It sounded just like her. It could have only been Shion. There was someone, though, wasn't there? Someone who sounded just like Shion. Mion. Who else could have done this? At this point, seriously, after all this time, all those little things that didn't quite make sense about Mion until now overwhelmed my mind. Like being questioned about sneaking into the ritual storehouse, and how she shook the ladder while spouting curses. Who else could have? Why, though? Why would Mion... I thought back to the things about the Sonozaki family that I had heard from Ooishi-san and Shion. Mion was always entangled in the incidents, in a position where she was omnipotent. Some of that information included things that Shion had told me after she disappeared. I madly scratched at my head. Courage, give me courage. Like what? Like what, though? Like what? I just don't think that's accurate. Like, I don't... Like, that you guys went into the storehouse together? Like, I guess, like... It would be so easy to run away. That, though, would be the same as making it easy for them to erase me. I cannot run. I must stand up and face it. After all, the next sacrifice would definitely be me. I was sure Shion would use tricky words to try to trap me. Be careful, be careful. I'm scared. I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. Phone rings. Yeah, yep, yeah. At that point, it rang. It's gonna be Rika. The phone rang, and I didn't know where the call was coming from. Shion had disappeared. Disappeared a long time ago. Disappeared the night after Watanagashi. Yet, until today, she had been calling me like nothing happened. Now again, tonight, the people that had disappeared, their corpses simply hadn't been found. I really didn't think they were alive. So if it really was Shion on the other end, then did that mean she was calling me from another world? Of course, that couldn't be. A living being was calling me, pretending to be Shion. Shion was long gone, and yet, as though she were alive and well, the phone continued its incessant ringing. I didn't want to pick it up if I didn't have to. I had just concluded, though, that not doing so wouldn't solve anything. Then, what would I do after I answered it? Would I immediately declare she wasn't Shion and ask who she was? Alternatively, would I pretend I was still fooled and try to grab her by the tail? Oh, God. What I was most afraid of was what the person on the phone would do when she realized I knew she wasn't Shion. However, as long as I continued to let her think I was fooled, she wouldn't do anything that extreme, right? If I just make sure to be careful, that should be the safest option. I've made up my mind. I'll answer the phone. Once I do that, I'll talk to her as if nothing happened. That wasn't all I'd do this time, though. I'd scope her out. Who was she? What was she thinking? And what was she after? Why was I doing this? Was she really the one who killed Tomitake-san and Takano-san? What happened to the mayor? What happened to Rika-chan and Sadako? I reached out for the receiver, my arm trembling. There were too many things I wanted to know. Too many things I wanted to ask. I was scared. I should start by picking up the phone. Pick it up, Keiichi. Pick it up, Keiichi. Fuck. Oh, how relieved I would have been if it hadn't been a call from Shion. My momentary, convenient, and above all fleeting prediction was ripped into 1,000 pieces. I couldn't help shaking at this point. Get ready for this.
お留守かと思って切ろうとしてたんですよ。
ああ、ごめん。ちょっとお風呂に入っててさ。
それでもご家族の方が電話を取りませんか？
Oh, they aren't home.
ひょっとしてケイちゃんの家、今ご両親はお留守なんですか？
I'm terrified. I'm just terrified. I just don't know what to say. I don't know what to think. I failed. I let her in on a fatal piece of information, that I was currently the only one at my
いや、
house.
別に留守ってわけじゃ。そんなことより聞いたか？リカちゃんとサトコの件。
いえ、結局あの後どうなったんですか？見つかったんですか？
ああ、見つからなかった。
Oh god, I'm just freaking out right now. I
ど
don't
うか
know.
気を落とさないで。
If Ooishi-san hadn't let me know, then I might have allowed myself to shed a tear or two at Shion's considerate words. Instead, now that it had come to this, I couldn't take her words at face value. This person on the other end of the receiver, the more perfect as Shion they were, the more my blood curdled in fear.
リカちゃんとサトコはさらわれたんだよな。
はい、それは間違いないでしょうね。
Just how cruel and grave a meaning did those words hold? Their weight astonished me, and then a moment later, I was overcome with numbness and felt like I would pass out. I asked if Rika-chan and Sadako had been kidnapped. Shion, in turn, had answered that there wasn't much doubt. That cruel meaning behind her
リカちゃん
words.
とサトコは。いや、ごめん。村長さんはさらわれてどうなったと思う？まだ生きてるんだろうか？
What happened to Rika-chan and Sadako after they were kidnapped? That's what I wanted to ask, but I frantically caught myself. What if she had given that question a terrifying response in such a way to sound like it had nothing to do with her? I was scared of that, so I immediately brought up the mayor. That said,
殺
however,
されちゃったんだと思います。
much I talked about the mayor, think he was killed.
おいおい、
Yeah.
そんなにあっさり。
人間をさらってその状態を維持するのってとても大変なことだと思います。人質にするんでもない限り、ヨンが済んだら殺しちゃうのが一
So
番
we're
合理的じゃ
done
ない
with
か。
them. What do you want doing what with them? The world started to bend so much I almost lost my balance. The scenery in my eyes whirled around and around like the hands of a clock, and I tried to swallow me the whole from below. I frantically put a hand on the wall to support myself. A moment later, a severe nausea welled up within me. How was she saying such things, so lightly?
殺しちゃうってそんなに
Whoa.
あっさり。
What is this music? I'm gonna go and say... Okay. Alright.
人の命を何だと思ってやがるんだ。
恐ろしいことだとは思いますが、多分そうではないかと。
If the mayor was killed, then did that mean the same had happened to Rika-chan and Sadako? No, that couldn't. They weren't some random old man. It was Rika-chan. It was Sadako. They couldn't kill them so readily.
リカちゃまとサトコちゃんも同じだと思った方がいいでしょうね。
God. Those were the words I wanted to hear the least, and I fought them back with a scream of my own. Even though it wouldn't change anything, I still couldn't help but scream. Jesus, man. This time, the tears flowed. I've been confronted with the most horrific outcome that I've been trying to avoid considering ever since last night, and I cried. And like, he's accepting it so readily here that she must know what she's talking about, because he is so convinced that she is like this evil thing tricking him now, you know? There's no longer any doubt. It was my fault. I killed them. I killed Rika-chan and Sadako. I succumbed to the weakness of my own heart and confessed everything to Rika-chan. That's why they were killed. That meant I killed them. When Rika-chan looked at me with those innocent eyes, if only I hadn't given in. Someone gotta tell me the name of this track. Even my voice gave out, and yet I still cried. I
ケイ
cried.
ちゃん、どうか気を確かに。
Rika-chan and Sadako, they've been killed. I'm worried he's just gonna lose it on her again and just... We couldn't even find their remains. I would never be allowed to even apologize to their faces. If that was to be my punishment, then how brutal a punishment it was. I think Shion tried to comfort me, but I didn't hear any of it.
そんなことでどうするんですか？次に狙われるのは確実に私かケイちゃんなんですよ。お願いですから、しっかりしてください。
Shion was shouting, imploring me with a voice that sounded like tears were in her eyes. However, I was coming to hate the sound of that voice more and more. This Shion killed them, yeah. I had no doubts that this person killed them. Why? Why?
どうしてだよ。どうして人をさらったり殺したりするんだよ。たたりだかなんだか知らないが、人の命ってのはそんなに安いのかよ。あっさり消したり殺したり。
ええ、全くです。悪魔ですよね。
Felt like crushing the receiver in my hands. How long did this person plan on acting like it was someone else's problem? There was magma in the pit of my stomach, and I felt like it was going to erupt at any moment. Like, the possibility of Ooishi just lying / being wrong about Shion's disappearance is still, like, totally on the table, right? Like...
なあ、シオン、教えてくれ。どうしてこの北見沢では、綿流しの夜に人が死ななければならないことになってしまったんだ。
それは私が知りたいです。
もうダム計画との戦いは終わったんだぞ。なのにどうしてまだたたり足りないんだ。どうしてだよ。どうして。理由があるなら言ってみろよ。
I was incoherent at this point. My emotions had broken through the dam inside of me, rushing forth, and I couldn't stop them. These were not simple questions. This was an interrogation. Shion herself hadn't realized it yet. It was just too funny. It was so funny that I couldn't stop crying.
私もよくわかります。ダム闘争はとっくの昔に終わったんです。なのに毎年お社様のたたりという名の殺人と失踪が繰り返されている。
It's so hard for me to think that Keiichi is at all right about his view of this situation, right? That this is Mion being evil, pretending to be Shion, just like emotionally manipulating him like a crazy lunatic. Like, I guess now it's going back to the same reason why I reject outright the idea that in Onikakshi we saw everything through Keiichi's eyes, like, as they really happened, and not him hallucinating, you know? Like, we're just back to that same thing now. Like, it's basically impossible for me to believe that this is actually Mion, who's this good of an actor, trolling Keiichi like this, manipulating him, doing this crazy shit. I just can't believe that at all.
なぜ？どうしてなんですか？全然関係ない人もいた。たたられるのに不相応な人だっていたのに、どうして？どうして？
それを俺が聞いてるんだ。
それを私だって知りたいんですよ。
Ha ha. Both of our ragged breaths could be heard over the
いいで
phone.
すか？お社様のたたりなんて非現実的なものは初めから存在しません。
I just don't, I agree that there's not a curse killing people. I don't think it's a curse killing people.
村の何者かがお社様のたたりというもっともらしい大義名分を利用して綿流しのたびに殺しと失踪を繰り返しているんです。奴らは狡猾でした。たたりを都合よく利用して村の旧敵を毎年2人ずつ消し去るシステムを構築していったんです。そしてこのシステムで今年は高野さんたちが殺された。
じゃあ二人で十分じゃねえかよ。
I'm worried he's gonna slip up and say, like, why did you kill them,
どう
you know?
して村長やリカちゃんやさとこまで殺されなくちゃならないんだよ。
I mean, I guess he's completely out of his mind, so...
それに俺は過去のことは今さらどうでもいいんだ。リカちゃんとサトコがなぜ殺されなくちゃならなかったのか。どうしてなんだ。
And of course, like, he's freaking out so much too because he doesn't want to think it was his fault, right? He wants to do anything but think it was all my fault, because that's his default position, is it's my fault that Rika-chan and Sadako died. So, if I can tell myself this is a crazy lunatic on the other end who killed them because they're crazy, then that's easier for him to accept, you know?
サトコには打ち上げですらないんだぞ。どうしてサトコまで。どうしてなんだ。
A silence fell between us. Shion didn't answer for a while.
もういじめないでください。
A sob. Was Shion crying?
私だって何が何だかわからないんです。最後殿に忍び込んだあの晩から全てが変わってしまった。
But, like, if my idea is that Shion killed Mion and has, like, replaced her, then isn't that also, like, that's crazy? You know what I mean? She would have to be, you know, and even if I'm saying that it's her crazy insanity that made her do it, just like what made Keiichi kill Rena and Mion at the end of Onikakshi, it still is so hard to, like, put that together with her current behavior and everything she's saying right now, you know? So, It really is like the author is putting us in, like, Keiichi's shoes so well, of us having no fucking idea what to think right now, you know? Like, at this point, I'm, like, more so on the side of neither of them have disappeared, that Shion and Mion are still alive. It was the same for me. As I listened to Shion's bitter weeping, I could feel my agitation subsiding.
高野さんたちが死んだと聞き、耳を疑いました。そして、すぐに気づいたんです。今度は、
It was your fault?
自分が狙われる立場になったんだって。忍び込んだのは、私たち4人。私とケイちゃんだけが、都合よく許してもらえるわけがない。
Ask to meet up with Shion again.
そう思ったとき、それがどれだけ心細くて、恐ろしいことだったか。
Like, is there some way... Is there any way you can confirm it's really Shion and not Mion? There was nothing fake about her words. She'd even understood how I felt. Ask her, tell her about what Ooishi said about Kimiyoshi. Maybe you just asked her when she told Kimiyoshi?
いけないことだとは分かっていましたが、本当に面白半分な気持ち、ちょっとした探検気分のつもりだったんです。一緒に入った高野さんたちは、その後すぐに殺されてしまいました。それも、あんなむごい最後。
Something that has just entered my mind right now, that I've just returned to, is that tip in Onikakushi, where Mion said that Ooishi-san is the messenger of Oishiro-sama, right? Who knows what that means? I don't know, especially considering Mion later said in the same chapter that she doesn't even believe in Oishiro-sama, right? But I am just gonna point out that Ooishi telling all of the crazy shit to Keiichi that he did, I feel like was a major contributor to Keiichi's insane mental downfall in Onikakushi, and him becoming so paranoid that he killed his friends, right? Not that I don't think that's the full cause, I just think Ooishi certainly hoped that along with all of the information he gave, right? So Ooishi taking that same position in this story, and him just being wrong/lying about Shion/Mion disappearing, would kind of have him fulfilling the same role that he did in Onikakushi, you know? So, that's all I'm saying.
あの日から、いつ私も襲われるのではないかと、君吉のおじいちゃんしか助けてくれる人がいません。だからおじいちゃん、助けてって、君吉のおじいちゃん、怒らなかった。そして、にっこり笑って、しおんちゃんがちゃんと反省してるなら、鬼隠しになんかなるものかって。
Back to the idea of apologies, you know?
本当に、笑いながら、任せなさいって。
Shion cried bitterly, recalling the beloved mayor's death. It was such a sad voice, that none who heard it could prevent it from twisting their hearts. Again, did I let my emotions take over and go off at her? Shion was in the same situation as me. She should have been my one and only comrade. But, thump, my heart pounded. My other self, deep within my mind, his other self, whispered to me, "Don't forget, Keiichi Maibara. Don't forget about the mayor, on the morning after Watanagashi. He was told of Takano-san and Tomatake's death over the phone and committed to a meeting that evening. He went to a hospital appointment. He didn't tell his family. He'd only made it back just in time for that meeting. He went straight to the assembly hall. That's what Ooishi-san said."
いつ村長に打ち明けたんだよ。ごめんな、シオン。悲しい気持ちのところに追い打ちをかけるようで、シオンは打ち明けたんだよな、君吉のおじいちゃん。
What is her...
村長に。
What is her reaction to this gonna be?
いつ打ち明けたんだよ。
If she just like... I had begun to get scared of saying it aloud after hearing her sad voice. I wasn't saying it was contradictory, though. Besides, if there was a contradiction, then I wanted Shion to explain it to me. Oh god, don't explain it to her, don't explain it to her.
答えてくれ。知らないなら知らないと答えればいい。
There was a momentary silence. Then, after stammering a few times, she
だった
replied.
のは知ってます。座る時とか辛そうでしたから。
病院に通ってたんだ。どこの病院かは知ってるよな。
ごめんなさい。それはちょっと知りませんけど。でも、ケイちゃん、それが一体何の...
I'm worried. Shion didn't know what hospital the mayor went to. That meant it was impossible for her to have gone all the way to the hospital and confess everything. Since she didn't know his destination, then she obviously couldn't have seen him on the train either. If there was any other chance for her to contact him, it would have been after he came to Hinamizawa. The train, however, had been delayed, and he only got back right before the meeting was about to start. He didn't have time. There wouldn't have been enough time for him to listen to Shion spill the
直
beans.
入に聞きたいんだ。シオンはいつ村長に打ち明けたんだ。どこでいつ大雑把でいいから教えてほしいんだ。
ケイちゃん、なん
Please
でそんな
answer.
ことを
Please answer. Her sob pierced into my ears. I was taken by the illusion that I was bullying her. Even so, I'll say it. If I'm wrong, then please correct me. Please prove to me that you're real,
あ
Shion.
りえないんだよ。村長が失踪した日、朝から消えるまでシオンには接触できる機会はありえないんだ。
そんな...
Just say it. Just say when you contacted him then.
村長は朝一で誰にも内緒の大学病院へ一人で診察に出かけた。シオンは今この病院を知らないと言った。だから帰ってくるまで。そうだろう。帰りの電車が事故で遅れたので自宅に帰ってきたのは会合の始まる直前だった。つまり会合が始まるまでの時間にも
I'm really worried that Keiichi is gonna blow this somehow and start freaking out or something, but he's doing good. I heard Shion repeating her weak sobs. That sort of feminine voice automatically ripped into my heart. It was so painful for me to
シ
say
オン
it.
も一緒に会合に出たのか。そして会合の席上で打ち明けたのか。ここで打ち明けなきゃもう時間がないもんな。村長は帰宅途中で失踪するんだから。
Shion went to the meeting, didn't she? Did she or didn't she? The question was so simple to answer, but she didn't give me an immediate response.
実は
Uh-huh.
会合にで...
あの日シオンが行くと言ったバイトすら君は欠勤してるんだ。もっ
Right.
と端的に言おう。君は俺と一緒に行った図書館以降誰にも目撃されていない。
Wow.
ケイちゃん、
Uh-huh. Please? Let her talk.
その崎シオンは綿流しの翌日に
Oh god, don't say
失
that.
踪したんだ。
The other end fell silent as the grave. It was so quiet that it was like the phone cord had been cut. I couldn't sense anyone
大
there.
石さんは
Ah, it's over. No, we're not gonna get answers. We're not gonna get answers. He shouldn't have added that. He shouldn't have said that last part. He literally should not have said that last part. Those last two lines, shouldn't have said them.
でもシオンはこうして毎晩俺に電話をかけてきてくれただろ。
I don't know. Was she gonna say something here? Shion's sobs were torturing me. Still, I'm pretty sure I haven't said anything
だろ
wrong.
シオン、俺が言ったことが間違ってるならそうだと言ってくれ。
Just let her talk.
頼むから。
Just come on. Just wait. Just don't say anything. Sit here and wait for her to say something.
シオン、お前は村長に会ってなんかないんだ。もし会ったとしたなら
If Shion ever did have the chance to meet with the mayor on that day, then that meant
村長が会合を終えた後、すなわち失踪する直前、もしくは失踪してからしかありえないんだ。
Please? Oh, okay. Oh, good. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, sure, yeah. What? Oh, yeah, what? Right, yeah. Uh-huh, yeah, I should have seen that coming. Yeah, my bad. Okay. Of course. Right. Yeah. That does make sense. I should have known that was going to happen. I should have predicted that. Yeah. Yeah, that does make sense. Of course, naturally. Like, right, yeah, yeah, of course, right, yeah, exactly, uh-huh. Yeah, of course, exactly, right. Right, right. Yeah, I guess I was, uh-huh. What? What are we doing? Like, what are we... I stood there dazed for a while until I realized she had hung up on me. Yeah, no, right, yeah, that is right. That does make sense. Of course, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that does make sense. Yeah. Yeah, of course, yeah, why not? Yeah, of course. Right. So I'm glad we got all that cleared up. I'm glad that now, everything's, man, silly me for, not realizing all of that stuff that was happening right then. I'm glad we really got some clear answers on everything, all of my questions and everything. I've really been illuminated now. I know exactly what's going on. Wow, yeah, that was really clear. I really know exactly what's happening now. So good. Not much more really needs to be said. It's pretty clear what's going on. So yeah. Like what? Like, is that Shion? Is that Mion? Is this? You know what I mean? We still don't know. We still literally don't know if that was Shion or if that was Mion. So I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Like, are we now going for the his friends are crazy psychopaths angle? Like, I don't know what to tell you. That was really bizarre. That was really normal. Let's listen to it again, shall we? Right. Right. I have no idea. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to think. I have no clue. So, good. Good. The problem with twins. This is not limited to just Hinamizawa, but in Onagachi village especially, the three families detested giving birth to twins as successors. The long-term dictatorship, built on the precarious balance of the three families, must have feared collapsing under the weight of internal strife from things like family quarrels. According to the literature, if twins were born, then they had to be cold. With that, the very fact that both the Sonozaki family successor, Mion Sonozaki, and her twin, Shion, are alive is in itself deeply interesting. Jesus. Perhaps the current leader, Oryu, is sympathetic? Of course, the twins were not cared for equally, and as the heir, Mion received special treatment. From what I've heard, despite the two of them looking exactly the same on the outside, the talent lies solely within Mion. My own observations of the two of them don't leave me with that impression. Tradition dictates that the leader of the Sonozaki family is said to inherit a demon, and that they tattoo a magnificent one onto his or her back. In accordance with the tradition, there's an extremely high possibility that Mion has such a tattoo on her back. Oh, okay. Sure. From what I've heard, there is apparently a magnificent demon tattooed on Oryu's back as well. Then, I wonder what sort of tattoo belongs to the heir, Mion. I really want to see her back. Sure. I guess I'll keep that in mind for if we ever see one of their backs. I have no idea what to say or think about anything. Like, literally at all. We just don't have an answer at all. This did not clear up anything. Other than make me feel less confident about his friends are not crazy psychopaths angle. But it could just be the crazy shit that makes you go crazy, right? Like, from everyone else's point of view in Onikashi, Keiichi was kind of acting like a crazy psychopath. He was carrying around a bat and swinging it around and screaming at people like a lunatic. So, was Shion/Mion's crazy laugh at the end of that call, was that any more insane than anything that Keiichi ever did in Onikashi? No, I don't think so. Reserved for the day, Suzu Mahjong Hurler. Ladder Clack.
なんだよ、クラちゃん。あんたが一番遅いよ。若い人はみんな揃ってる。
じゃあお母さん、すみませんね。
I hate him. Ooishi handed over a convenience store bag with a carton of cigarettes in it to the old lady who owned the mahjong parlor, and she shrewdly made herself scarce. She was used to this by now.
おいさん、お疲れ様っす。
なんだ、みんな真面目に待ってたんですか？さんまでもやってりゃよかったのに。
Everyone sitting at the mahjong tables in the small parlor were Ooishi's subordinates, but there were no tiles laid out anywhere.
皆さん、連日の不眠不休の捜査、本当にお疲れ様です。
Energetic responses filled the parlor. Already, it had lost the atmosphere of a place of entertainment.
状況は芳しくありません。所長が園崎系議員の恫喝に屈したそうです。
That's ridiculous.
近日中に高野殺しは岐阜県警に譲り、村長たちの失踪は行方不明扱いで生活課に委ねるようです。
Some cool looking portraits up there. That damn upstart chief. The veterans in the room were cursed him.
請求した令状もすべて却下されました。課長からは園崎家界隈には近づくなとまで言われています。
And that just makes me more suspicious. Like, of... I don't know. I don't know what that makes me think.
ちなみに、私には来週から警視庁への研修命令が出るそうです。その後は余った有給を伊豆で消化しろとまで言われています。いや、そういうのも悪くないですね。
All I know about Izu is when they went there in Yuru Camp Season 2, so... he heard a few dry laughs. It wasn't anything to laugh about, but that was all they could do.
いつもそうですが、事件と車のキーの閉じ込めはよく似ています。開けるための鍵はいつもその中に閉じ込められているんです。車なら修理業者を呼んで扉をこじ開ける。事件なら、熊ちゃん、図面を。
Kumagai flipped over the whiteboard. On the back was a map of the Sonozaki premises made with
私も
magnets.
ずーっとこの商売をやってます。勘には自信があるつもりですがね。今回ばかりは外れるかもしれませんよ。退職金が欲しい方は、私が10数える間に席を外してください。
Ooishi began to count to 10, and everyone counted along with him. It was their famous 10-count resolution.
10! ああ、誰も出てかないよ。皆さん、ご家族はもっと大切にしてくださいよ。
Yeah. Everybody laughed uproariously, cheering things up.
各自、手元の資料を確認。監視カメラの所在と資格を叩き
We're just gonna break in?
熊ちゃんは指揮者で待機。非常時は私に代わって指揮をお願いしますよ。小宮山君は突入 A 班。敦君は突入 B 班を監視班は1から8所定の位置で監視を。ボンチ君はタイムテーブルを厳守。秘書に怪しまれないようローテを管理してください。さて、待機中の班が一番大仕事ですよ。課長に私の所在を聞かれたらとぼけてください。ゲストのエスコート役は私がやります。きっと会場へ連れて行きますので、皆さん気長に待っててください。
落ちるっすかね。前原圭一は。
Okay, what do they think Keiichi needs to cave on,
私の
though?
見たところじゃ、明日明後日には行けそうですよ。
What does he need to cave on, though? That's gonna be the end of the tip, isn't it? God damn it. What do they think Keiichi needs to cave on, though? Like what? I mean, they think Keiichi's killing everyone? Well, Keiichi's secretly been killing everyone off screen, we just haven't gotten to see it. That was all the tips? What? We have only one chapter left? Fuck. Shit. Might just finish it today. Like, I don't know. If I do, would I make 2 separate videos, or would this be a 5-hour-long video? I can't decide. I guess we'll just have to see. For now, though, thank you for watching. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Because I don't know what to think. So, yeah. Couldn't tell you. I don't know. I have no idea. So, good. I'm glad we really made some progress here in terms of me having no idea what's going on. So, good. And yeah, I will see you in the next one.